Hey, Retcon Raider here. It's about 2 weeks late, but today I thought we'd take an overdue look at how the channel did in May. I usually like to do this a bit earlier in the month while the details are still fresh in my head, but it's been a pretty hectic month. Sorry about that. Anyway, as most of you probably already know, the channel had its 1-year anniversary back in April. All things considered, we had a pretty strong first year, with over 3,000 subscribers and over 500,000 views. And if May is any indication, then our second year is going to be even better. Up until now, my monthly average has been about 300 new subscribers and 50,000 views, with roughly 10% growth on those numbers each month. That's an oversimplification, of course, but still, that's some pretty respectable numbers, especially considering that it was my first year on YouTube, and I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. In May, though, well, according to the analytics, channel growth spiked over 300%. We completely destroyed our previous monthly records, gaining roughly 1,200 new subscribers and 150,000 global views. Thanks to the hype surrounding games like Phoenix Point, Pathfinder Kingmaker, and even Fallout Van Buren, the channel is suddenly growing faster than ever before. Granted, this is just a temporary boost, and I can already see some of the numbers starting to normalize, but it's still pretty exciting. It's also a bit of a relief because, as usual, I've been struggling with my current production schedule. I generally try to finish at least 20 new videos each month, but despite my best efforts, we ended up falling a bit short in May. I did still manage an average of 1 new video every 2 days, but I know I can do better than that. Unfortunately, the simple fact of the matter is that it takes time to finish planning, recording, and editing videos. My gameplay videos can take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to finish, depending on their length and complexity, and it can take days to finish some of my more ambitious research projects. It doesn't help that I have a lot of other responsibilities competing for my time. I'm lucky if I can dedicate more than 6 hours a day towards making new videos, and even then, I've learned that I need to pace myself. Dehydration, sleep deprivation, sore throats, and ear fatigue are all things that I've had to deal with over the past few months. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just trying to provide some context. It can be easy to watch videos without realizing just how much work went into making them. And I'll tell you, this past year has given me a whole new level of respect for a lot of YouTubers. That said, now that we're in our second year, I think it's time for me to start taking the channel a little more seriously. While it's not much, I've recently started rearranging my schedule to make my recording and editing sessions a little easier to handle. I've also started aggressively reorganizing my recording area, both to get myself better organized and to improve my general quality of life. It's obviously way too early to see if it's getting any results, but hopefully these changes will help me get back to producing higher quality content on a more regular basis. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's more than enough about that, so let's move on to something a bit more interesting. Let's spend some time talking about games. I guess we should probably start by talking about Pathfinder Kingmaker. Like I said last month, I was pleasantly surprised when the series really took off. The first episode ended up getting over 60,000 views, and even though each subsequent episode has gotten less views, they're still doing very well. I actually love playing the Kingmaker beta, and I'd really like to upload episodes on a more regular basis. Unfortunately, it takes about 12 hours to finish recording and editing each episode, so you can probably understand why they're coming out a bit slowly. Besides, I'm not really in much of a hurry to get to Act 2. It's pretty buggy and unfinished at the moment, so I'd like to give the developers a little more time to get it polished and updated. That also gives me more time to work on some of my other series. Even though Kingmaker gets the most views, I always want to make time for games like Battle Brothers and Darkest Dungeon. In fact, Darkest Dungeon is even getting a new piece of DLC next week, The Color of Madness. I'm really looking forward to working it into my current campaign. I'm also looking forward to getting back to Battletech. I actually released the first 2 episodes of my new Battletech series back in May, but I ended up putting it on hiatus after I heard about all the new content that the developers have planned. The first content patch, which will hopefully be out later this month, will include several new quality of life improvements, including faster combat animations and the ability to customize your Mechwarriors. That means that not only will I finally be able to insert my viewers into the series, but the overall pacing of the episodes should also be significantly improved. Oh, and of course I don't want to neglect Phoenix Point either. While the development team has been pretty quiet over the past few weeks, we've got Backer Build 2 and the Briefing number 5 right around the corner. I'll admit, I kind of dropped the ball with Backer Build 1, so I'm hoping to jump on Backer Build 2 in a much more timely fashion. Aside from that, I've got my eye on several new games as well, which brings us to a somewhat contentious subject: Fallout 76. Now, I'm not really planning on getting into the whole debate about what Bethesda is doing to the franchise. I just really want to keep talking about the lore. And while I'm not really a fan of online multiplayer survival games, I do think that the setting for the game looks pretty fascinating. I really like how the developers have drawn inspiration from the culture and history of the Virginia area. I was worried that they were just going to shoehorn super mutants into yet another Fallout game, but instead we're getting some pretty creative new mutants based on classic cryptids like Mothman and the Grafton Monster. I'm also happy to see that the developers have drawn at least some influence from the Van Buren documents. After all, the trailer does show what appears to be the ruins of a crashed space station, one that looks suspiciously similar to the ballistic orbital missile bases that were going to be heavily featured in Fallout Van Buren. That's not to say that I'll be making any videos about Fallout 76, but I'm at least thinking about it. Honestly, I'm not even sure how I'd approach that kind of thing, since that's not really the sort of game that I enjoy playing. That said, I'd love to spend some time talking about the setting and lore. In the meantime, it also gives me yet another reason to keep making videos about Fallout Van Buren. Anyway, I've got a lot of projects I need to get to, so let's wrap things up a little early. As always, I'd like to finish the video by saying thanks. No, seriously. It's thanks to people like you that the channel continues to grow on a daily basis. And while I do get the occasional critical or even outright insulting comment, the vast majority of you have been nothing but friendly and supportive. I think it's pretty safe to say that I wouldn't still be doing this if it weren't for people like you. I'd also like to give special thanks to all the people who have been generous enough to help support the channel financially. I know it may not seem like much, but every donation helps, and all that money goes towards paying the costs associated with running the channel. Given how expensive things like software and computer equipment can be, I think it's safe to say that I literally couldn't do this without their support. So, special thanks to my honorary raiders: Anonymous Mechwarrior, Demetre Foster, James Trimmier, Kairon Xander, Mark Richards, Purge, Stjepan Lovasić, and Woe77. And extra special thanks to my veteran raiders: AdriRaven, Drakiith, Drunken Gunslinger, Jonathan Tanner, Mildly Nuclear, Nazzul, Takumson, Laura, and Mike. Oh, and of course I'd also like to give honorable mention to my raider lords and captains: Revenant, Alluvian Est-Endrati, and Rowan Church. Thanks a lot, guys. That said, if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to check out my PayPal or Patreon. Like I said, every little bit helps, and who knows, maybe I can even turn this into a full-time job someday. And hey, even if you can't or just don't want to support the channel in that way, that's fine. As long as you're still watching and hopefully enjoying the videos, that's good enough for me. At any rate, I've got videos to work on, so I'd better get back to it. This is Retcon Raider, signing off. Thanks for listening. Oh, and remember, if you need to contact me for any reason, you can do it through the comments section on any of my videos, or you can reach me through my Facebook page, my Patreon account, or my official email address. As always, links are in the description.